first of all, I think I know your title, but why don't you tell us what your role is in the Labor Council?
I am currently the Vice President of Community Affairs at the San Francisco Labor Council.
And how did you get involved in the union movement? I know you've been around a few years.
Just a few. Well, actually, nobody in my family belongs to a union. So I became a member of my union back when my children were small. And I found out that I could work for 32 hours a week and have great health benefits if I became a file clerk of Local 3, OPEIU Local 3. So I joined the union, and I went through a divorce and all sorts of crazy things, and the union and my good union job really supported my family and myself. So after many years being in the union as a rank and file, I knew I had to give back. And so I'm one of those sort of old-fashioned girls who started out as a file clerk and ended up many years later as head of her union.
Shaping up the people who might have given you a hard time when you were a file clerk.
That's right. They left and I stayed. I have endurance.
Economic democracy.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, how did you encounter, under what circumstances did you meet Mike Casey and Olga Miranda, and what can you say about your association with them?
First of all, they're great leaders. They're great union leaders, and I've worked with both of them for a long time. I've known Mike a little bit longer than Olga. I first met Mike actually in the living wage struggle back in 2000, 98, 99. He and I and others in the union movement really worked hard to get the living wage ordinance through. So that's when I first met him. And then after that, I always say that if there's anybody I would like to get arrested with, it's Mike Casey. And I've been on numerous picket lines getting arrested in his support. I think that he is one of the greatest, actually, truthfully, one of the greatest labor leaders we have in this country today. He has that roar of a lion and fights like hell to give his members the best contract, some of the best contracts in the country. But he also has that really gentle side, that really human side that will take the time to ask you about your ill mother or how your daughter is doing. All of those good combinations. So he's been around for a long time. You know, the other thing he does really well is he brings people who are on different sides together and tries to figure out a resolution. So his idea of unity of our labor council, now that he serves as the president, is something that he works really hard for. So he and I work very closely together, and I really admire him. Olga, I haven't really known that well for a while, but I am so impressed with her leadership around the immigration struggle and her bringing together all the different forces of the Immigrants' Rights Coalition and leading us on a great May Day march this year and continuing to fight the good fight for her members and for all people to get some kind of decent immigration reform passed. So Olga and I got arrested about a month ago in support of the security guards, and she and I were in the paddy wagon together where we conducted business. So that was a lot of fun. I admire both of them greatly.
Both very strong personalities, very outspoken, but with credibility and integrity.
That's right. All of that, and both of them thinking of their members and working people in general first, and themselves second. So they're people that we all admire, and we should admire, and we're lucky to have them here.
Well, you and others are in the Labor Council, including Mike and Olga and Tim, many others, are very supportive of our struggle at City College, and we very much appreciate that. We're going to win, partly because of the strength of the people, the unity of the people.
People ask me every day what's going to happen. I say, for one thing, it's not going to close, and for the second thing, it's going to remain the best working class institution that we have in San Francisco, and it is because of the leadership of Mike and Olga and union officials, as well as all of the good support that the teachers and all of the unions, plus the students and community, are giving. We all love City College. My son went and got his GED at John Adams. I took the labor studies classes way back in the early 80s. We've all been a part of City College, and we will not let it go down. We will not.
Good, good. Thanks to good people like you and Tim and Mike and Olga and others, our Labor Council has taken progressive positions on complicated issues.
We're not afraid of our positions, and we know that being a good trade unionist doesn't mean stopping at having a good contract, because the working class institution that we are needs to support all people. And so we've come out strongly against the war and strongly for peace and social justice issues, and we will continue to do that, because that is the only way that we can move forward to become the society that we all really want to have happen. Unions have been around for a long, long time, and that strip on Golden Gate Avenue has these big, old, beautiful union halls that are led by two leaders that are very generous with all of that space.
Right, and just across the street from each other.
They are.
Too.
They're right across the street from them. Many days we go back and forth to different meetings at both of these places.
Union sense, hallowed ground.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about Mike or Olga?
No, just that I congratulate them on this well-deserved honor, and I'm just proud to be their friend and proud that they are in our union movement that we will continue to lead together.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Roger.
Could you tell us your name and your union role?
I'm Frank Martin del Campo. I've been with the San Francisco Labor Council, proud member and leader of the Labor Council for 20 years.
Okay. And how did you meet Olga Miranda and Mike Casey?
On the streets.
In demonstrations, militant actions?
On the streets.
Okay. Okay. Why do you think they deserve the award that the San Francisco Living Wage Coalition is presenting them with? The Labor Man of the Year or Labor Woman of the Year?
Well, first of all, I believe that this honor is very merited, but also the organization that renders it has had a consistent record of being connected with low-wage workers in an uncompromising fashion, right, for decades. An organization such as this, right, represents the best of the San Francisco Labor Council. Your selection of the honorees, I couldn't be more pleased to share my thoughts on why I support the selection of your honoree. In Mike's case, I met him on a picket line, local 2, Grotto 9.
Grotto 9.
With my daughter. In Olga's case, I've known of her and her family for decades in my work in our common community. I believe that union honors should be given on union actuals, on what people do, on how leaders face the challenges on behalf of all of us. And using that standard of leadership under the present time is a very difficult standard. So that provides the context of the selection of these two particular leaders. The demonstrated leadership that Olga very clearly offered to her membership in the city and county of San Francisco was her approach in August of 2008, at the height, right, of the economic and political assault, when much of our council was immobilized and unable to respond in any effective fashion to the challenges of pension cuts and others, right, to economic demands at the table. And that Olga stood up to those challenges in August of 2008, when the heat of the struggle, when we had the least ability to understand who were our allies, who can support us. It's that spirit of struggle that Olga brought into our council. At the same time, what is measured bothly by Mike and Olga is that they are strong, effective leaders who have led our council in one of the most difficult periods, right? Difficult periods, not only of our council, but of our class, in the history of our class in this nation, right? we must be, take up some of the load of our few effective leaders and make sure that they are placed on the strong collective backs of organizations like Living Wage, right? On the affected workers, on affected migrants, on the affected communities, on the affected new workers. For these reasons, your selection by Living Wage is sound, is appropriate, recognizes unity and struggle, effectiveness in the day-to-day, but also gives us a balance sheet so that we're not too hard on our leaders, hard when we need to, no doubt about it. But with the knowledge that we're producing a better council as a result. Thank you.
Yeah, could you tell us your name and your role?
Sure. My name is Maria Guillen, and I'm a rank and file activist with SEIU 1021. I also serve as a shop steward here for my workplace, which is the Human Services Agency in San Francisco, and I'm also a member of the San Francisco Labor Council Executive Committee.
And how did you get involved in the union movement?
Well, I took a job with the city, and this was late in the late 80s, after I had done some nonprofit work. And I didn't have any experience with unions up until that time. Other than my grandfather, I know was a Teamster. He was a warehouseman and he was a Teamster, and maybe a couple other family members. But my immediate family, there wasn't, I didn't grow up in a union household necessarily, but turns out when I got the job with the city, I had been working at a really good unit. It was called Senior Information Referral. And during the early 90s when Mayor Jordan was mayor, he got the bright idea of contracting out the work of our unit. He thought that somebody in the community could do it, for less money, and I guess he thought that they could have the same quality of service. Well, we fought that, and that was my first. Fight back, right? And so at that time, I was with SEIU 790, and our director was represented by Local 21, and so both of our unions worked together to fight that that plan. And I remember that was my first time meeting Walter Johnson, because he came to the Board of Supervisors meeting, to help, so that we could, keep our service, right? He really went to bat for us. So, yeah. So ever since then, I saw the power of the union, and I started to get very active. And fortunately, Local 790 invested a lot of resources in me, and a lot of money to go get trained. Different locations. They themselves did some advanced training as well as advanced leadership training. And so then it was all about, okay, now I have to get back. So
You've also been active in U.S. Labor Against the War.
Yes, that was a very exciting time for me as well. I regret that I wasn't able to follow through with that, but there were other things happening in my life at the time, the loss of my husband and so forth. So that took a toll. And but I remember thinking, how exciting to be in this particular movement, and to be bringing the rank and file information about how the things that they're fighting for, and the things that they're doing without, has so much to do with the fact that we're in a war that we shouldn't be in.
Sure.
Right?
How did you encounter Olga Miranda?
Olga, I was trying to figure out when exactly I had met her. I believe I had met her a long time ago. I don't know if she remembers, but we were in an organization that had to do with immigrant rights, and then I remember being very, very impressed with her and the fact that she was also from LA, so there was an affinity. And then the next thing I know, she's working for Local 87, and I also remember the struggle that her local had, and she was one of the leaders there at the time, where our international union, our SEIU international union, wanted to merge her local into a bigger union, right? And the members of Local 87 said, no, we don't want that. And so they fought that. And so I remember going and helping and participating in some of the demonstrations, even though it was we were, as 790 members and as SEAU members, it was frowned upon, right? Because that means we were, stepping out and countering our international. But it just seemed like the right thing to do, and I was just so proud of their efforts. And guess what? They
Yeah, right. And I would imagine Olga was central in that struggle, wasn't she?
Definitely. I mean, she provided a lot of leadership. Her character is just amazing. She has such a strong character, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a sensitive side too, and whatever. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that she can be an assertive woman, but also really kind of transcends all kinds of labels. She's what she needs to be at the time, right? And
How did you meet Brother Mike Casey?
now, wow, I would imagine it wasn't until I actually became a delegate with the Labor Council, I believe, and that's when I became exposed to a lot more of the various unions that are affiliated with Labor Council, and I was always again struck by his personality and to me he seemed like a real bridge builder. I've always looked at Mike as being someone that is really focused and knows what he needs to do for and with his union, but he also has a sense of that the movement is bigger than all that, and he has a global sense of what the labor movement is. So I remember being very impressed with his leadership and his character as well. And what I do remember is that going out and supporting Local 2 in their hotel boycotts and strikes was always really exciting. And actually, my first act of civil disobedience was with Local 2.
Really?
Yeah. So, and again, that's because I was just really taken by by his leadership, his actions, and his membership is just seemed like they were
militant and diverse and
very, very diverse, and they really were committed to working together and to for the betterment of their members. I also really appreciate the role that he plays as president of our Labor Council. It's tough, We have at times a lot of division and strife, but Mike is really he really strives to bring us together as much as possible. It's not always successful, but I think that we are where we are because of his leadership.
I agree.
So I have a real appreciation for the role that he plays, and he's also, I know that he's been able to garner, and that's why his local is able to garner so much wide support, right? Because of that.
Broad support, and I would imagine more people have been arrested for civil disobedience in actions of Local 2 than any other union in the city.
So,
And that's partly a commentary on the respect for the union and the leadership, I would say.
Right, and I think I want to thank the Living Wage Coalition, the campaign for honoring these two leaders. I think that it's going to be a great evening, together and highlighting all of their good work and letting them know, how much they mean to us.
Could you tell us your name and position?
So, my name is Tim Paulson. I'm the Executive Director of the San Francisco Labor Council, which represents over 150 unions here in San Francisco, 100,000 men and women who work under a collective bargaining agreement. And I've probably been in the labor movement officially working, full-time as a staffer and an organizer it's been over 20 years right now. I'm a journeyman tile setter and installed marble, and my union is the bricklayers and allied crafts workers. But ironically, and this is for tonight, I was hired to be the organizing director for SEIU Local 87 in the late 1990s. And I don't know if everybody still remembers this, but I was hired to set up the organizing department and also worked on politics during the Justice for Janitors campaign. And over, I guess it's about 15, 14 years ago, Olga, you tell me, I hired you to be one of the organizers on our staff at Local 87, and it's been a friendship and a partnership ever since. And very honored that you're honored tonight by the Living Wage Coalition. It was during the time when the Living Wage Coalition was first put together with Carl Kramer and Ken Jacobs and so many different labor and community groups that were there. There was, the year-and-a-half campaign that it took to get the living wage legislation actually passed in San Francisco, and one of my assignments when I was working for Local 87 was to be the representative on that coalition. So we've come full circle today in terms of the fact that here we are honoring Olga, who is now with her organizing skills has become the president of SEIU Local 87, and I'm also proud to say that she's also the secretary treasurer of our labor council and is one of the top leaders in our labor council, besides being the president of her own union. And I thank you for your friendship, Olga.
Good. And your hiring her was a commentary on her outstanding qualities and your wisdom.
It turns out that it was that hiring Olga was, she was probably the most tenacious organizer on our staff, and it belies itself that she's now a great leader in San Francisco, and a great organizer, and a great leader to her members during their difficult fights, especially during these immigration raids and everything else that's going on.
And a person who speaks her mind and is listened to.
Olga is not a shy person, if any of you have not noticed, and her ability to say what's on her mind is probably, I will say it's a skill. Other people might think differently, but I say it's a tremendous skill, because when Olga speaks, we know that she says what she means, and it's usually very good for working men and women, that her tenacity to speak her mind and to fight.
And people listen. Yeah.
People listen. They have to.
And how did you first encounter Mike Casey in the labor movement?
Well, ironically, I knew and got to know Mike Casey because Local 2's offices, as you know, are right across the street from here. I know we're in the janitor's building today. It's right across the street from 240 Golden Gate. Local 2 is at 219 Golden Gate. And listen, both immigrant unions, service unions, hotel workers, restaurant workers, janitors, cleaners, I mean, it all is the same fabric. And Mike has been, a wonderful president of our council, as well as the president of his own union. So it's pretty, we could call this the Golden Gate Awards today, because we have the heads of the two very, very, very strong unions in San Francisco being honored by the Living Wage Coalition. So I've known Mike because we did joint campaigns together. The hotel workers were doing campaigns at the same time that the janitors were in the contract campaign. We marched together. We had both of our unions on the street at many times, and that's when I got to see Mike, and I got to see how much his members felt about Local 2 and Mike, and the fact that the organization that they have is so deep in terms of the organization's their internal organizing, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and it takes a long time to do that, and the team that Mike has assembled and to put together the strong union that he has is pretty incredible. So congratulations both to Mike and Olga.
Do you know more militant and effective union leaders than the two of them?
That would be tough to beat, especially in San Francisco, where we are a union town, as they say. Local 87 and Local 2 are both unions that are in the headlines, are willing to take it to the street, and are willing to make sure that all their members are involved in the campaigns. Militant at times, smart at times, very strategic at times, but always in the consciousness of the labor movement in San Francisco, those two unions, and very appropriate that both leaders on Golden Gate Avenue are being honored
Sure.
tonight.
And also, Tim, because City College is in the eye of the storm at the moment, and you have been a very strong supporter, could you mention briefly why you and Mike decided to rip off the paper from the windows at the Board of Trustees meeting recently at City College?
No, absolutely. Mike and I were both with you, Roger, we were both at the Board of Trustees meeting, and I kind of joked to Mike because I told him I actually didn't have the guts to do it. When I walked in there, I saw the butcher paper on the wall, and I was just going to take it down just because I was pissed off. But then I thought, no, Elisa and Local 2121 have certain things that, they want us to talk about today, so I didn't do it. Next thing I know, Mike comes up and he's just rip-roaring pissed off, and he says, this is absolutely outrageous. That first of all, that the room wasn't as large as it was, and so, more than half of the 2121 members that wanted to attend weren't even allowed in, and then we get in the room and actually see the windows covered up. And anyway, he got totally outraged, and then we all got together and said, something, let's do this together. Let's do this as a concerted action and go to the microphone when we do it. And Mike actually took the microphone to say this is outrageous, that this transparency is not here, and that actually freedom and justice was going to be denied to people during some of the biggest fights of their lives. So I was happy to be with you and Mike, and we just we put the plan together to take the pieces off. And Mike went to the microphone. I still joke that I didn't have the guts to do it because I was too busy trying to be a good soldier to the 2121. But I thought it was a pretty good
It
event.
was. People loved it. People loved it. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Anything else you'd like to add about either of them?
Oh, I just like to say this is the day that Golden Gate Avenue gets honored by the Living Wage Coalition, and I wish I could be there.